Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ji, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. 1 second. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtapraeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vamcha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's Mataji. Welcome to today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, chapter entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. So we'll have a quick revision of what we discussed last time, and whoever wants to answer can raise your hands. So what is the meaning of Dhritarashtra, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? What did we discuss last time? What does Dhritarashtra signify? Anyone? Shama Gopika Mataji, Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dhritarashtra means one who is attached to the state power.
To the state, correct. One who bears the state and is very attached to the state. And as we can see from the case of Dhritarashtra, that even after Prabhupada mentions he had lost all his men and money, all his children, grandchildren, most of the soldiers from the army, everything, and even the entire kingdom, he was still being very attached and living at the charity, at the mercy of the Pandavas, whom he himself had tried to kill and poison and burn in the house of like many times earlier. So it was a very, very wretched life according to the scriptures, according to Vidura. And why did Vidura come back home? Did he come back home? Did he miss the comforts of home? What was the purpose? Yes, Prabhuji's, Mataji's.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Should I raise my hand? Sorry.
No, that's fine. Lalita Vinodini Mataji, you continue.
Actually, no, not for his comfort. He wanted to advise his elder brother, saying that God, the life he's leading is a wretched life. He should not be leading that life. And he wanted to advise him and make him leave the home and take up sannyas.
Correct. He wanted to protect and uplift his brother who was leading a wretched life by giving him knowledge and with the requisite dose of knowledge, give him the requisite renunciation. And we see, and in what ways did Vidura follow Lalita Vinodini Mataji to explain Dhritarashtra this particular point? Did he explain to him very nicely, calmly, and sweetly?
He was explaining to in a very detailed manner. The whole chapter is about that only. And he made him realize that he need to, leave the house. Like his own sons were being killed by Pandavas, and he's still, living at their mercy, which is some analogy is given. I forgot that analogy.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Lalita Vinodini Mataji. Ajit Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. He sarcastically told him, called him as a Rajan, indicating that his attachment is still exists with the position and the kingdom, which should not be the case.
Very nice, Prabhuji. So basically, Yudhishthir Maharaj was officially the sovereign king now. He was the king. But Vidura still addressed Dhritarashtra because that's what Dhritarashtra liked to be referred to as in his heart and heart. So sarcastically, Vidura called him Rajan as the king because of his attachment to the kingdom. Prem Prakash Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
The Vidura used insulting tone to reawaken the soul that whatever Dhritarashtra is left with.
Right. And what did he refer to him as? What did he refer to Dhritarashtra as? As a
dog,
as a pet
who is
dog.
taking dog, who keeps taking the food from his masters in spite of master kicking him.
Right. And specifically, who did he point out Dhritarashtra taking the food from? From which particular person? Bhima. And what was the reason?
He killed actually two of the most favorites sons of Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana and
Dushas.
yeah, Dushasura.
Dushas. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. So let us start. We will just start maybe a slide or two back. So this one we saw meaning of Dhritarashtra, and devotees are supposed to be Dhruta Hari. That means we are attached. We are supposed to be attached not to anything of this world, but to Lord Hari. And as we can see from the example of the Pandavas later on in the next chapter, when they come to know about the departure of Lord Krishna from this world, without wasting a moment, it is explained that Yudhishthir Maharaj and all his brothers, they hand over the reins of the kingdom to Parikshit, their grandsire, and not grandsire, grandson, and immediately start towards north. And even in today's discussion, we will see how even in case of Dhritarashtra, as soon as he is enlightened within his heart and decides to leave, Gandhari also immediately follows. Although Bhagavatam states that as the wife, it was not mandatory, obligatory for her to do that, but because of the Vedic culture of remaining chaste and a chaste follower of one's husband, she also immediately left. So these are the examples of Dhrutahari. So yes, this one we saw. Now maybe we start with this example of from the life of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Basically, Prabhupada mentions a sadhu never flatters any person just for some material benefit. And what was the meaning of sadhu? We had discussed Prabhuji's Mataji's last time. A sadhu means to one word. What was the word we discussed? Anyone? What is the prime duty of a sadhu? Of course, there can be many answers to this, but we discuss one specific word which Srila Prabhupada uses many times in his talks.
Sadhaka, Prabhuji. Sadhaka.
Sadhaka, okay, that is for his own practice. But in this context of Vidura, what is Vidura trying to do? Rina Mataji.
Bring in Krishna consciousness.
Yes, bring in Krishna, give Krishna consciousness. Okay. Shama, Rohini Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. He is trying to tell the real fact, even if it is
Yes.
not,
Palatable.
palatable. Yeah.
Yes, very nice. So, Prabhupada, maybe Shama Gopika Mataji wanted to share something.
Prabhuji, same as what Rohini Mataji has shared just now. And
Okay.
it is about like preaching to the householder so that they should know what is the aim of life.
Very nice, Mataji. And this point we had also touched in discussing the description of Srila Shukadev Goswami, that devotees like he, they travel on the surface of the earth just to uplift the householders. They don't need any charity. In the guise of charity, they simply try to perform welfare for the householders. Mangala Mai Shri Prada Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, but yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, sadhu means he should be a holy man, he should be virtuous, he should be chaste, he should be honest or right.
Yes. Sadhava, sadhu, bhushanaha. These are the qualities of a sadhu. And specific word that we had discussed last time was a sadhu means to cut. Cut what? What is he supposed to cut?
Ties of
Bondage.
material
That's material
attachments.
Bondage to material.
Yes. Knots of material attachment. And sometimes this can need a surgery, as Vidura is performing for Dhritarashtra by talking to him in a very harsh language so that he understands. We'll start with this
Hare Krishna,
example.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Adideva Prabhuji.
I just got remembered of a verse.
Mhm.
Titikshava karodikaha suhridam sarva bhutanam ajata shatrava shanta sadhava sadhu bhushanam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So sometimes these sadhu qualities are demonstrated also in the form of a compassion, which is required to be given in the form of very strong chastisement, like Vidura is doing for Dhritarashtra. Of course, we cannot ourselves prematurely assume such a situation, because it can, if we are not pure enough, if we don't have that adhikar, we can do more harm to the person than uplifting them. We need to have that purity and that adhikar for us to do that. Say, for example, for parents, they do have responsibility towards children to correct them, sometimes in a harsh manner, because they are responsible for well-being of the children. But no third person can directly simply go in anyone's house and chastise the children, because we don't have adhikar as such. So we have to be careful. So let us see the example from the life of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, how he was also such an exemplary sadhu. Who did not mince his words when required. So let us see this episode. Anybody would like to read through Prabhuji's Mataji's? Hare Krishna. Murli Prabhu, would you like to read Murli Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. I will read. Hare Krishna.
Okay, 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Once in a room with many disciples, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was speaking and Abhay listening when an old man besides Abhay motioned to him. As Abhay leaned over to hear what the man was wanted, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta suddenly spotted out in anyone at the two apparently uh, inattentive students. Babu, he first addressed the old man besides Abhay. Do you think you have purchased me with your 150 rupees per month donation? And then, turning to Abhay, why don't you come up here and speak instead of me? Abhay was outwardly mortified, yet he treasured the rebuke.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. So here we see Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was giving a talk to the group of devotees, and if I remember correctly, this was in the new temple, maybe the Ulta Danga Junction Road or the Bag Bazaar temple, that I don't recollect, but a new temple, Gaudiya Math temple, which was just constructed, inaugurated, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was giving a talk to the disciples, to the devotees and the visitors. And during the talk, we see a big donor. Now, this amount might seem less today, but imagine this is the beginning of 20th century. So that time it was probably few lakhs rupees a month. So he was a big donor to the Gaudiya Math. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he saw that this man and Abhay means Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Charande, that was his name during the household life. When these two were talking, in fact, Prabhupada was not even talking, he was just attending to what this person had to say. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very upset. Just give me 1 minute, Prabhuji's Mataji's, hold on. Yes. So he scolded the donor saying that, do you think that you have purchased me by your donation? And to Srila Prabhupada, who was at that time a householder, he chastised saying that, you think you are so learned? Then if so, you better come here and speak. Then I listen instead of you listening and I speaking. And Srila Prabhupada, basically the point he is trying to drive, that such a sadhu is not afraid, that he is not weighed down because of any what you can say charity or that, because ultimately that charity is meant for Lord Krishna. Even if such a person is doing that service, it is for Lord Krishna, but he is not obligated or weighed down because of this. Any other example can we think of, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, from the scriptures of a sadhu being very heavy to any personality for their own good? Can we think of? There are quite a few examples from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone? Usha Mataji, you had raised your hand earlier. Usha Mataji and one more devotee had raised. You want to try, Mataji?
Prabhuji, I raised my hand to read, Prabhuji.
Okay, I'll ask you, no issues.
Okay.
You can think of any example, Usha Mataji, or other devotees, of a sadhu really being heavy.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I?
Yes, Rasarangini Mataji.
So Narada Muni also did that, right? For Nalagriva and for the two
Nalakuver and Manigriva. Okay.
Nalakuvera and Manigriva. He actually chastised them, telling that they will stay for over 5,000 years, right? So that was one chastisement which is done for their good because they were able to relish Krishna's birth, pastimes, and all. Would that also be a part of this, Prabhu?
Yes. So in that particular episode, it is more like Prabhupada calls it as a blessing curse, that it was a curse, but which resulted in upliftment of these two spoiled sons of Kubera. Okay.
Also, the curse of Chitraketu by Uma Devi, that is Shiva's wife, though it was a curse by itself, but it turned out to be a blessing because he is going to be the next Indra or whatever. So that way, isn't that also a blessing? Hare Krishna.
Right, but we are looking at chastisement. Okay, so say for example, okay, so maybe we hear one more devotee, Murli Kari Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Sri Krishna chastising Arjuna in the Mahabharat war, telling him that he was speaking like a coward, which resulted in Bhagavad Gita being spoken by Lord to all of us. That is what I can remember, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Quite a statement on Krishna by Krishna on Arjuna.
Yes, and in fact, he didn't even chastise saying a coward. He said, "You are talking like a learned man," while lamenting for that which is not worthy of lamentation. So even higher than that. And we also see Narad Muni explaining the allegorical story and later on pointing very bluntly to Maharaj Prachina Bari about the story of city of 9 gates. So there are many such examples we see. Maybe we'll see one last example. Reena Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a small kid, he actually ate the mangoes which was kept for offering to the Lord. So then his father, Bhakti, the Thakur, he chastised Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, how can you eat before offering? So from that day, he never took mango in his whole life, Prabhuji.
Yes. So basically, as a child, he had eaten a mango without offering. So when it was brought home. So, okay, thank you, Mataji. So let us come back to the slide. So we see how such a sadhus like Vidura, they know how to give Krishna consciousness to people in general based on their background, based on their mentality, based on their level of attachment. And in case of Dhritarashtra, Vidura definitely needed to give a very high dose in the form of a stern instruction and chastisement. So we had kept this particular statement last time. We had analyzed how Vidura's dealings with the Pandavas, they were different than Vidura's dealings with the Dhritarashtra. In fact, it is mentioned in Bhagavatam that Pandavas, along with the family members, they were also present when Vidura was instructing Dhritarashtra as Rajan and all. But Dhritarashtra specifically understood that that instruction is meant more for me and not as a generic instruction. And there is one more point which one of the devotees, Rasarangini Mataji, asked, that how do we understand the relevance of these principles which Vidura used to communicate with these two set of personalities. One are the Pandavas and second is Dhritarashtra. What is the relevance of these principles that Vidura followed? The difference between Vidura's instructions to these two people in the context of ISKCON communities in general. So let us try to understand this a little bit. In the text 13, Srila Prabhupada uses the term civic laws. To describe this Vidura's instruction. Yes, Prabhupada states in the purport, according to Niti Shastra, civic laws, one should not speak an unpalatable truth to cause distress to others. So this Srila Prabhupada explains why Vidura did not break the news of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty to the Pandavas. But when it came to addressing Dhritarashtra, he was most blunt, straightforward, and chastising in a scolding mood. So what is the difference? What do we learn from this, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? Anybody would like to comment? That one should not speak an unpalatable truth to cause distress to others. What can happen if we are not careful about giving the truth in right manner? What opposite effect it can have? Shama Gopika Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhuji, as per the, Bhagavad Gita shlok also, we see the austerity of speech, right? So first, whenever, first of all, we need to see whether the thing that we are going to say is truthful or not, and whether it is beneficial to the other person, and whether it is pleasing. So, if we are in this case, like Vidura, even if he does not reveal this news to Pandavas, but it will come in,
They will come
to know. They will come to know.
Right.
And also, like Pandavas are like already pious souls, and they are like all as you explained in the last week, that Yudhishthira was, first of all, like he was not willing to take the charge of, like, he did not want to rule the kingdom because he was thinking that he is responsible for all the killings that happened in the war. So that's why in this case, like, he did not want to reveal that news. So in case, like, if it is not necessary for us, we should always be like sensitive to others. Yeah, and then if it is not necessary for us to speak the unpalatable truth, then we should avoid it.
Yes. And can we think of any examples, Mataji, of any immature behavior which a neophyte, which a immature devotee can demonstrate, where the principle that he is trying to speak is true as per the Shastra, but it is not spoken in a mature manner and it can have a destructive effect than to uplift other person in Krishna consciousness. There are quite a few such scenarios. Sometimes they happen that devotees, especially when we have just come to Krishna consciousness, when we have understood some principles from the scriptures, we are very enthusiastic and eager and not that discretionary in our application of those principles while speaking to others. Can we think of any example?
Prabhuji, while going through this, while I was reading through this, I came across one example wherein, like, it was telling about one child's result, and then how the parents would come to know from the child itself, like, what the result is. But because deliberately the neighbors are coming and, like, keep on asking the parents that, oh, your child has failed in the exam. So actually it is not, no parents would like that their children must fail in the exam, but then they are coming deliberately and saying that. So sometimes, like, as we are conditioned living beings, and then we take pleasure in the, when other person is feeling some,
Put
disappointment.
down.
Yeah. So we should not, like, we should always try, we should always see that three filters which are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, whether it is like really beneficial for them, whether it is truthful, and yeah.
Truthful, beneficial, and what was the third one?
Truthful benefit. Just a minute, Prabhu. I'll just check. One sec.
Applicable.
Truth. Yeah, it should be truthful, pleasing, beneficial,
Pleasing,
and not agitating to others, Prabhu.
Others. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank
So
you.
maybe we'll see one or two examples from the devotee circumstances where a truth, if it is not given in a right manner, it can cause other opposite effect. Sadatushta Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam to all the devotees. Prabhuji, when we are in my initial days with our enthusiasm, I used to tell to our friends, family, whatever it is. First thing what I used to say is we have to live on onion garlic. We should not drink tea. We should not eat meat. We have to live eating meat. So some of my close friends now they don't want to take up Krishna consciousness because they are so attached to tea, coffee, or eating meat. They think that by chanting a holy name, I have to leave all these things. So rather, what we need to see is first we need to encourage them to chant the holy names, and when they are getting the higher taste, all other things will automatically will leave. So rather than focusing on what to leave to come to Krishna consciousness, we have to show what we got in Krishna consciousness. Rest everything lower taste will go automatically. So we need not have to emphasize too much in initial days, but what to leave. This is my personal experience, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Very, very nice, Sadatushta Prabhuji. And some of the other examples, like there are many, say for example, from scriptures we come to know that how as a living soul, as a living being, we have our own set of parents that we receive every birth. So sometimes devotees are disrespectful towards parents and all, but Srila Prabhupada never taught his disciples to behave that way with the parents. In fact, Srila Prabhupada asked Brahmananda Maharaj to go and pay flat obeisances to his mother when he visits home after he had taken sannyas. And his mother was stunned to see her son, and later on she became very favorable towards Krishna consciousness movement. Similarly, even those of his disciples' parents who were quite hostile towards Prabhupada because of their own children joining the Hare Krishna movement, Srila Prabhupada was always very kind and receptive in talking to such people. So, point is, truth needs to be given in a manner which is pleasing and which will act for the benefit, for the upliftment of the other, and not cause the distress unnecessarily. And we have quite a few medical professionals like Prema Prakash Haridas Prabhuji and Aishwarya Subhadra Mataji who can explain that even a medicine which is supposed to cure a person, if it is not given in right dose, if there is an overdose, the same medicine can also kill a person. So one has to be very, very careful in how we are presenting the truth, whether it is going to please Krishna, Guru, and uplift person. If that is not going to happen, then better we refrain ourselves, if that is not going to benefit the other person. So let us proceed. So Rasarangini Mataji, is it clear from here what is the relevance of this principle in the ISKCON community? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All right. So we proceed. I'm not sure if Mataji is there. So we then start with the next set of verses, which is text 23 onwards. And all these purports by Srila Prabhupada are amazing purports. Please don't skip even. I think we have to read them few times so that we get all the details right. So we will recite some of these verses and then start going through the translations. Usha Mataji, you want to recite through?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Text 13.25. Tasyapi tava dehoyam.
Tasyapi tava dehoyam.
Kripanasya jijivishoho.
Kripanasya jijivishoho.
Paraiti anichato jirno.
Paraiti anichato jirno.
Jaraya vasasi iva.
Jaraya vasasi iva. One second, Mataji. I think I wanted to start from 23. My bad. 1 second. Yes, this part we saw. All right. So these three set of verses, text 23 till text 25. We have a classroom discussion on this. Maybe we read through the translation and purport first.
Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, you can read the translation despite.
Yes. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserly body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment.
Yes. So specifically, Vidura is addressing Dhritarashtra as Krupanasya Jiji Vichoho. Krupanasya, what does a Krupana mean, Prabhuji's Mataji's? Krupana mean?
Miserly.
Miserly. In Hindi, it is called Kanjush, or in English, the synonym is stingy. A person, like, can we give an example to explain this? Why Dhritarashtra is being addressed as a Krupana? How such a person is a miserly person, a stingy person?
Because
Anyone?
he's not utilizing the human body, Prabhuji,
Yes, he is not utilizing the human body for
spiritual progress.
yes, for what it can really achieve, for what it can really give. Like example can be given, say for example, a child is there and the child has a very high denomination note in his or her hand, say for example a $50 or $100 note denomination. However, you try to give a child say for example a 10 rupees, 50 rupees Cadbury and take that $50 note from the child, and the child would happily give you the note and keep the chocolate for himself, not realizing that he can get 10, 15, 20 of those chocolates within that denomination note. So he's giving out what is much more worthy to get what is not as much worthy. So this is a very crude example. But in case of a Krupana, a miserly person, he tries to utilize body for his own sense gratification. And scriptures mention that we don't need a human life for getting that sense gratification, because it is available even in the lower forms of life, like those of cats, dogs, hawks, and so on and so forth. Now that we have gotten the human form of life, but tendency is same like the lower forms of life. So such a persons are called as Krupana. And what is the opposite of Krupana? Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Prabhupada mentions here as well as in Bhagavad Gita. What is
Brahmana, Prabhu?
Huh?
Brahmana.
Brahmana. And why a Brahmana is called a Brahmana? What is opposite of Krupana in him?
He knows to make full use of the human body.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, Prabhuji, Murli Prabhu.
he has the Brahma Jnana also, Prabhuji, and realizes what the real truth is.
Yes,
That's
he is basically leverage on his opportunity to the fullest degree to receive the knowledge of the absolute.
Also, Prabhuji, he distributes the knowledge of upliftment for the people in general.
For very nice, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. So such a soul is very magnanimous in giving the knowledge to others. So 1 second.
And Prabhuji, he utilizes the knowledge he has gained for his personal application also in his day-to-day life.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Mataji. So Dhritarashtra, due to his wrong conception of life, had already spoiled 80% of his achieved energy. See, Prabhupada is also very graphic in describing the wretched position of Dhritarashtra. He had spoiled more than 80% of his achieved energy. So it behooved him to utilize the remaining days of his miserly life for the ultimate good. Such a life is called miserly because one cannot properly utilize the assets of the human form of life. So, in case of Dhritarashtra, Prabhupada explains that he was staying in a life of imprisonment in the material body, stuck in a material body, but not willing to get out of that prison even when his term was about to end. His lifespan was about to end. Still, he was very attached. So now, in the subsequent verses, hang on now. I think maybe what I just mentioned was supposed to be the classroom exercise. Can all of you Prabhujis and Matajis just take 5 to 7 minutes to scan through these verses and bring out any other points from Srila Prabhupada's purport which point to Dhritarashtra's attachment? So take few minutes to go through these important purports and let's list down any other points. Hare Krishna. My apology, I just mentioned one point which Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport. What else does he mention? Text 23 to 25, just the three texts. And whenever devotees are ready, you can raise your hand so that we can request respective devotees to speak. So we'll just wait for a minute or two, Prabhuji's Mataji, then we start. Can we request all devotees to try and go through and share your understanding? Hare Krishna. Do we need more time, Prabhuji's Mataji's? Hare Krishna.
Yes, start, Prabhuji.
Okay, fine. So, Venkata Narsimha Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Sadhuism not meant for live comfortably by flattering the rich people, and he is meant for giving the naked truth so that they will come to senses and do the better things. And finally, he is meant for teaching them so that he will go back to Godhead.
Yes, bro. But question is what all general principles we can understand from Dhritarashtra's life that shows his deep attachment?
May I, Prabhuji?
One by one. Let him try once, Mataji. You want to share something, Venkata Narasimha Prabhuji, on this? There are quite a few statements Srila Prabhupada mentions that what was his attachment? What was the nature? Prema Priya Jayashri Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
First and foremost, Dhritarashtra was living like a household dog with the Pandavas, with in the Yudhishthira, eating the remnants of the food given by Bhima. And Bhima had actually killed two of his very precious, very favorite sons, Duryodhana and Dushasana. That was the first one. And though he was actually attached to the household life, though he had become a pauper in the real sense, he wanted to live very comfortably in the house of the Pandavas. It's a shamelessly, actually. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And why that staying in that comfort is being condemned? What is the reason?
One should not, should be sensitive enough not to take the shelter of people who have harmed them.
Yeah, but Pandavas had not harmed Dhritarashtra.
No, whom he had harmed, actually. Whom he had.
Whom he had, okay, yeah.
He should feel guilty to actually
Guilty.
not take their help. Yeah, the sense of guilt was not there in Dhritarashtra.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Prema Priya Mataji. And we will request few more devotees. 1 second. Vivek Sharma, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
So Dhritarashtra is an example that his overall attitude persists to cling to his role and position despite the circumstances he was facing. He's like a politician of today who do not retire voluntarily but continue in their role until death.
Yes.
Till their removal.
Prabhupada mentions this in the purport. And though we don't want to take names, a very recent example of a very prominent personality in the world political scenario, we saw that the queen of a particular place, like her son was waiting for so long, and this lady was almost in her late 90s, but still not ready to give up. Only when she passed away, then the son became a king at the age of 70. And unfortunately, within 2 years of that child has also, of course, he's no more a child, he's a grown-up man, but that son has also got a very severe cancer disease and all. So we see this attachment to the material comfort is so much. Prabhupada mentions that it is very, very dangerous to keep this attachment till the last moment of one's life. It can create lot of issues later on. And here, see this statement by Prabhupada. What does he say? The foolish man does not know that a particular term of bodily existence is awarded to him to undergo a term of imprisonment. That means what body we have gotten, it is not a very happy thing. It is a prison term that is given to us. And the human body is awarded after many, many births and deaths as a chance of self-realization to go back home, back to Godhead. So while in this present term, we have a chance to reform ourselves, take up devotional service, and achieve self-realization. But persons like Dhritarashtra, who are too attached to the body, they try to make plans to live there in a comfortable position with profit and interest, for they do not see things as they are. So persons like Dhritarashtra, rather than reforming themselves in this prison term, they are becoming attached to continuing in that prison, which is a very, very degraded position. So maybe we'll request few more devotees to speak before we proceed. Let me see who has not spoken. Radhika Ratnanga Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. I seconded the opinion of before speakers, like about the Dhritarashtra was not able to give up his worldly attachment, and he was ready to be staying at the place of Bhima, despite he killed his own two pet sons. So which is not recommended in today's generation, Prabhu. Second thing is that he is not able to give up his post till his last breath, and he wanted to continue and enjoy all the comforts of life, which is again not recommended. And in the third shloka, he's been compared to a kripana, that is the one who is too much attached to the material life. And it is his good luck that he is able to, good luck that he was able to meet or have a brother like Vidura, who has come to slay that attachment towards a material life by giving the required knowledge so that he can proceed further for the liberation. Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ratnanga Mataji. And Vidura specifically points out to Dhritarashtra that it is not obligatory for him to lead such a life in a humiliating circumstance. That means not from the Pandava side, but on his own side, that as Prema Priya Mataji said, a life where he is accepting comfort from persons he has tried to harm many times. And Vidura is suggesting better live a small life of dignity and self-respect than like a that of a humiliating charity. We don't need to live like that. This one we saw. Any other devotees have any other points, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, apart from what we saw from Dhritarashtra? We saw about Krupana. We saw about the danger of sticking to those material comforts and positions till the end. Prabhupada gives the example of politicians. We saw that how life in this material world is like a prison term. One is supposed to reform and not become attached to the comfort in that prison. And we also saw that it is not obligatory for one to lead a life of humiliating comfort, but better to lead a life of dignity and self-respect. Any other devotees want to add anything? Prabhuji's, Mataji's, you can unmute. If not, we proceed further.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Murli Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, in the text 23, I think the fourth line says, Dhritarashtra is a typical example of an attached old man in household.
Right.
Now, this is an important statement. I found it because this is the case which is for I think more than 90, very minuscule percentage do not think this way.
Correct.
This is a typical life everyone leads it. And I think this is what Srila Prabhupada is pointing it out to us. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the second point, which I found it interesting, was that even though he had all the facilities to go to the Varnashrama system, Dhritarashtra was not willing to do the Varnashrama. He wanted to stick to his body also. That was what's interesting, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Murli Prabhu. So now this is the problem statement, that Dhritarashtra's attachment to the comfort and staying in a humiliating circumstances because of his own past misdeeds. So what is the workaround solution that Vidura offers to Dhritarashtra that we will see in the next verse? So let us go to that. Yes. And Srimad Bhagavatam, basically Vidura presents 3 stages of level based on the levels of person to get out of this life of material attachment, and we will see what are these 3 stages. This is very important. Let's who wants to recite the verse? Prabhuji's, Mataji's. Geeta Pradeep Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Gata swartam imam deham.
Gata swartam imam deham.
Virakto mukta bandhanah.
Virakto mukta bandhanah.
Avinyata gatirchaya.
Avinyata gatirchaya.
Savai dhira udharatah.
Savai dhira udharatah. Translation.
He is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown, remote place and freed from all obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So what is Vidura advising Dhritarashtra to do, Mataji? What is he advising? He is explaining him about the principle of a Dhira person. And Dhira, in plain English, Prabhupada translates as undisturbed. And later on he explains as those who are undisturbed even in the provoking situation. So such a Dhira, he should leave home, go to an unknown place, remote place, without even informing the friends and relatives, and should quit his body there to correct his material attachment, to correct the mentality of material attachment. So let us go through the purport. And Dhanya Dhameshwari Mataji, you can read the next verse, Mataji. Okay. Geeta Mataji, please continue. Narottam Das
My
Thakur.
Lord, I have simply wasted my life, having obtained the human body. I have neglected to worship your lordship, and therefore I have willingly drunk poison.
Poison, yes. So before we proceed, this is a very famous Vaishnava bhajan by Narottam Das Thakur. And from the few accounts, this was Srila Prabhupada's most favorite of the bhajans. Hari Hari Bifale Janama Gunaino. So this is sung like Manusha Janama Paya Radha Krishna Nabhojiya Janiya Shuniya Vishakha Inu. So Narottam Das Thakur is praying that, my dear Lord, like I had got a human form of life, but I have not utilized it in worshipping Radha and Krishna, and willingly I have consumed poison of material sense gratification. Of course, he is representing a materially attached person, but he was definitely a great devotee of the Lord. So here also Srila Prabhupada is explaining that this is the mood of a devotee, that I could not properly leverage upon my human form of life. Please continue, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Therefore, one who has spoiled his life without such cultural activities is advised to leave home without knowledge of friends and relatives, and being thus freed from all obligations of family, society, country, etc. Give up the body at some unknown destination so that others may not know where and how he has met his death.
Yes. So if we carefully observe this verse and coming two verses, Prabhuji's Mataji's till 28 verse, we will find that Bhagavatam is giving 3 levels of mitigation to material attachment. So what Mataji just read, the explanation of Dhira, this is the first stage that Vidura is advising and that Bhagavatam is advising as a workaround, as a mitigation for Dhritarashtra's problem of he being a materially attached person. So let us also see what is the level 2 stage and what is the level 3 stage. Yes, so the point I have mentioned is, what is the advice for Krishna conscious grahasthas about concluding their family life? Because this is one suggestion that is given, that you leave home without informing the family, society, friends, etc. and basically pass your old age and pass away from this body at a secluded place, without where the near and dear ones, they won't even come to know. And this is to free a person, but this is mainly meant for a person who is too much attached to material comforts and who is frustrated out of it, to get out of this life. But this is not the highest. Let us see what Srila Prabhupada wants to offer as a higher perspective to retire. Continue, Mataji.
Dhira means one who is not disturbed even when there is sufficient provocation. One cannot give up a comfortable family life due to his affectionate relation with wife and children. Self-realization is obstructed by such undue affection for family, and if anyone is at all able to forget such a relation, he is called undisturbed or dhira. This is, however, the path of renunciation based on a frustrated life. But stabilization of such renunciation is possible only by association with bona fide saints and self-realized souls, by which one can be engaged in the loving devotional service of the Lord. Sincere surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is possibly by awakening the transcendental sense of service. This is made possibly by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Dhritarashtra was lucky enough to have a brother whose very association was a source of liberation for this frustrated life. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So do we see Gita Mataji and all the devotees? This is a level higher than just developing renunciation by giving up life, staying in a secluded place, and passing away in that place without the knowledge of near and dear ones. What Srila Prabhupada is offering, that sincere surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord and taking association of the pure devotees of the Lord. This is definitely a higher platform, and how it is higher is explained in the next verse. So we will go through, and if anyone has any questions, we will take it at the end of text 28. Dhanya Dhameshwari Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yasvakat parato veha.
Yasvakat parato veha.
Jata nirveda atmavan.
Jata nirveda atmavan.
Hridi kritva harim keha.
Hrudi kritva harim deha.
Avrajit sa narotama.
So here in this verse, Vidura is talking about the highest stage, which is more than that of a Dvira, and one more in between stage also that Prabhupada mentions in the purport. So let us see. First is Dhira stage, second will come in the purport, and third is Narottam. Prabhupada will explain both these stages. Dhanya Dhameshwari Mataji, continue.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare.
Translation. Translation. He is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands, either by himself or from others, the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart.
Yes. So before we go through the purport, we see that this particular statement, that person awakening his Krishna consciousness either by himself or based on the good advice, based on the good counsel of others, we see that there are relevant verses from by Prahlad Maharaj, where he mentions that such a advice for the demoniac people, it is very difficult to accept such a advice because they are engaged in chewing that is already chewed, either by their own good intelligence or by the good advice of others. It becomes very, very difficult for such a person. We will just recite these two verses, hang on, and then we proceed. This all of you can go through later on. You want to recite these two verses, Mataji, 30 and 31.
Shri Prahlad Uvacha.
Shri Prahlad Uvacha.
Matirna Krishne Parata Svato Va.
Matirna Krishne Parata Svato Va.
So abhipadyate graha vratanam.
Mito abhipadyate graha vratanam.
Adanta gobir vishatam tamishram.
Adanta gobir vishatam tamishram.
Naha punah charvitara sarvananam.
Punah punascha charvananam. Any devotee can sing this in a proper meter. Prabhuji's, Mataji's, anyone would like to try? Radhika Ratnam. One second, Mataji. Sorry, who is this Prabhuji's?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. One second. Always tell your name, Prabhuji, please. Otherwise, is it Vipin Vilas, Prabhuji, who is speaking?
Yes, Prabhuji. May I?
Vipin Vilas Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. Sri Prahlada Uvacha.
Sri Prahlad Uvacha.
Matirna Krishne Paratah Svato va.
Matirna Krishne Paratah Svato va.
Mitho vipadyet gruha vratanam.
Mitho vipantet grahavatana.
Adanta gobir visatam tamisram.
Adanta gobir vishatam tamishram.
Puna punascharvita charvananam.
Translation, Prabhuji.
Translation: Prahlad Maharaj replied, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons who addicted to the materialistic life make progress towards hellish conditions and repeatedly chewed that which has already been chewed. The inclinations towards Krishna are never aroused either by the instruction of others or by their own efforts or by a combination of both. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. And we will just see one more instruction of Srila Prahlad Maharaj on this. You can recite this also, Prabhuji. Vipin Vilas, Prabhu, please continue.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, little down, can you?
Down, okay, fine.
Yeah. Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnum.
Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu.
Durashayaye bahirarthamaninaha.
Durashayaye bahirarthamaninaha.
Andayathandar upaniyamanaha.
Andayatha andar upaniyamana.
Tepi satant tatra urudam nibandaha.
Tepi shatantra urudam nibaddha. Translation. Okay, I'll read
Translation
quickly.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying the material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of the Lord Vishnu. As blind men guided by the other blind men miss the right path and fall into the ditch. Materially attached men lead to another materially attached men are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in the materialistic life, suffering the threefold misery. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, bro. So coming back to Dhritarashtra's case, we see all the symptoms that are mentioned by Prahlad Maharaj of a materially attached person. They do apply in his case. And the first mitigation we saw was the level of Dhira. Second one, Vidura is mentioning now, which is the, hang on, Dhanya Dhameshwari Mataji, please continue. You can read the whole purport.
There are three classes of transcendentalists, namely, 1. The Dhira, or the one who is not disturbed by being away from family association. 2. One in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi by frustrated sentiment. And 3. A sincere devotee of the Lord who awakens God consciousness by hearing and chanting and leaves home, depending completely on the personality of Godhead, who rides in his heart. The idea is that the renounced order of life, after a frustrated life of sentiment in the material world, may be the stepping stone on the path of self-realization. But real perfection of the path of liberation is attained when one is practiced to depend fully on the Supreme Personality of Godhead who lives in everyone's heart as Paramatma. One may live in the darkest jungle alone out of home, but a steadfast devotee knows very well that he is not alone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is with him, and he can protect his sincere devotee in any awkward circumstance. One should therefore practice devotional service at home, hearing and chanting the holy name, quality, form, pastimes, entourage, etc., in association with pure devotees. And this practice will help one awaken God consciousness in proportion to one's sincerity of purpose. One who desires.
Sorry, Matri, 1 second. Yes. So before we proceed, here Srimad Bhagavatam is specifically advising the necessity for one to have this training to depend fully on the Lord, especially for the renunciates, for those who have already crossed the householder path of life. So in this regard, there are examples even in our own institution of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, as well as quite a few other cults as well, where, say for example, for ISKCON Mumbai, as part of the Brahmachari training, mandatorily during the course of training, the Brahmachari devotees, they need to travel with traveling Sankirtan bus party, where while the necessary ingredients for cooking the bhoga and all are given, the devotees are required to distribute books and sustain themselves for almost a period of like 1.5 to 2 months, traveling to different parts of India. This training, Bhagavatam mentions and Srila Prabhupada also writes in the purport, is very, very important. One is practice to depend fully on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And not in the devotee context, but in between, there was also a major news of a diamond merchant, a very wealthy diamond merchant from Surat, who had sent his son with only the travel ticket to South Indian state, Kerala, I believe, and he was supposed to get a job and manage himself for almost 2-3 months period of time, so that he learns the importance of money, he learns the hardships, and then he is able to manage the business well. Of course, we don't want to manage the business well. That is not the purpose, but the purpose is developing dependence on the Supreme Lord, that he will avashya rakshibe Krishna. That is also one of the symptoms of a surrendered soul. So that is very important according to Bhagavata. Please proceed, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
One who desires material benefit by such devotional activities can never depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he sits in everyone's heart. Nor does the Lord give any direction to persons who worship him. Such materialistic devotees may be blessed by the Lord with material benefits, but they cannot reach the stage of first-class human being as mentioned above. There are many examples of such sincere devotees in the history of the world, especially in India, and they are our guides on the path of self-realization. Mahatma Vidura is one such great devotee of the Lord, and we should all try to follow in his lotus footsteps for self-realization. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mother. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Srila Prabhupada is specifically talking about many examples of such sincere devotees in the history of the world, especially in Srimad Bhagavatam, who have previously traversed this path of depending completely on the Lord after having spent a life of attachment. 1 second, let me see what all the examples I mentioned. Oops, yeah. So we see the example in Srimad Bhagavatam of Maharaj Yayati, who was so much attached to Devyani. Was he attached to Devyani? Maharaj Yayati's story with Devyani and Sharmishta. And later on, to the extent that when he was cursed by Shukracharya, after breaching Shukracharya's condition that Shukracharya had put, he was willing to exchange the old age that he had received as a result of breaching that condition with one of his young sons and wanting to enjoy sense gratification for a longer period. We also see the story of Ajamel, who led a life of sense gratification throughout, to the extent that even at a ripened age of 89-90, he still had a young child within his home. We see the story of King Prachina Barhi, who was so much attached to the fruitive activities that the whole earth was covered with kusha grass, because fruitive sacrifices Maharaj Prachina Bari was conducting one after another just to get material benefits. So such examples we see, but why they are there in Srimad Bhagavatam? Because at the end of their life, they did get the association of great devotees of the Lord, and through the instructions and association of such great devotees, their life was completely transformed. So these people, these personalities should be our guides on our path of self-realization. And Mahatma Vidura, of course, Mahatma Vidura is a pure devotee of the Lord even before he became Vidura. He is a Yamaraj, one of the Mahajanas. So these great devotees should be our path bearers. So we proceed. Hang on. Yes, there was one more. Anybody else wants to read also? Mataji's, Prabhuji's, Hare Krishna. After this verse, we will take a pause for a classroom discussion. Anybody would like to volunteer to read? Shama Gopika Mataji. Yes.
अथो दीचीं दिशं यातु स्वैरज्ञातगतिर्भवान्
दीचीं दिशं यातु
स्वैरज्ञातगतिर्भवान्
इतो अर्वाक् प्रायश काल पुंसां गुणविकर्षणः
इतो प्रायश काल पुंसां गुणविकर्षणः.
Please therefore leave for the north immediately, without letting your relatives know, for soon that time will approach which will diminish the good qualities of men.
Yes, so now question to all the devotees, and whoever wants to answer this, raise your hand. Which specific stage Vidura is advising Dhritarashtra for out of the stages we discussed, and why? Okay, maybe you take a moment to think, all the devotees, and we request those devotees who have not spoken, if you want to answer, that would be very nice. If not, we'll ask devotees who have raised hands. What is the stage that Vidura is advising Dhritarashtra to take, and why? Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji, Jagadananda Murari Prabhuji.
Sannyas ashram.
Sannyas ashram, are we sure which are the three stages? First of all, Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji, what are the three stages Vidura described?
Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha.
Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, these are the social orders. But Vidura, Bhagavatam, we saw three stages for a person who has spent his life in a materially attached manner. Three stages for retirement are mentioned. What is the first stage? P.S. Murthy Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu Dhira, Narottama, and Sadhu Sangha.
Yeah, so Sadhu Sangha.
Association.
Yes, so Narottama is the highest stage, okay, and one of the means for being a Narottama is to the association of devotees. And Dhira is the first stage, which means mitigate the material attachment by giving all the material association and leaving the home without even informing the near and dear ones, spending old age, passing away at a secluded place without the knowledge of the near and dear ones. So Dhira is the first stage, Narottam is the third stage, Sannyas is the second stage, which Bhagavatam talks about. So out of these three stages, coming back, Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji, which is the stage Vidura is advising Dhritarashtra? Out of these three stages, based on this translation?
Narottama stage, last stage.
Last stage, but is Dhritarashtra qualified for the last stage? Not yet. He is
Not
still
yet.
material.
He's
So,
advising him.
yeah. So specifically, he's advising him for the preliminary stage, for the Dhira stage, that at least you leave. At least you leave immediately and without informing even your nephews, the Pandavas, and start walking to the north. Okay? So
Yes.
maybe we start reading through. Mataji, please continue. Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji.
Purport. One can compensate for life of frustration by becoming dhira or leaving home for good without communicating with relatives, and Vidura advised his eldest brother to adopt this way without delay because very quickly the age of Kali was approaching. A conditioned soul is already degraded by the material association, and still in the Kali Yuga, the good qualities of a man will deteriorate to the lowest standard. He was advised to leave home before Kali Yuga approached because the atmosphere which was created by Vidura, his valuable instructions on the facts of life would fade away due to the influence of the age which was fast approaching. To become Narottama or a first-class human being, depending completely on the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, is not possible for any ordinary man. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.28 that a person who is completely relieved of all taints of sinful acts can alone depend on the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead.
Yeah. So before we proceed, which is this verse Srila Prabhupada is quoting from Bhagavad Gita? The famous verse?
7.28.
Eshamta antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmuktam bhajante mam drudavratah. That one of the qualifications, criteria required to advance in spiritual life is one should have cleansed all the sinful activities. One should have gotten free from all the sinful activities. And definitely, Dhritarashtra was not at that stage right now. So continue, Ishwari Murari Priya Mataji.
Dhritarashtra was advised by Vidura at least to become a dhira in the beginning, if it were impossible for him to become a sannyasi or a narottama. Persistently endeavoring on the line of self-realization helps a person to rise to the conditions of a narottama from the stage of a dhira. The dhira stage is attained after prolonged practice of the yoga system. But by the grace of Vidura, one can attain that stage immediately, simply by willing to adopt the means of the dhira stage, which is the preparatory stage for sannyasa. The sannyasa stage is the preparatory stage for Paramahamsa, or the first great devotee of the Lord.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So are all the devotees clear about these three stages? Dhira, sannyasa in between, and Paramahamsa, or which is also alternate word used for this Paramahamsa is the Narottama stage, which is used by Vidura. Where is that word? Narottama. Was it in this verse? Sorry, or previous 27th? Yeah, here. Vrajet sa Narottama. So Vidura is guiding him towards the path, but asking him to take the preliminary stage first, that of being a Dhira. Any confusion, doubt, Prabhuji's Mataji's on these stages? Is it confusing? Rasarangini Mataji, Hare Krishna.
I just have one doubt on this. One is, I understood the three stages, but what I don't understand is, Prabhu, even for sannyasi, you tell not take permission, but then you inform at home and go, right, Prabhu? But for dhira, why are they telling you just walk off? Because even without a note, right, it creates a lot of stress for people because they don't know where they've gone.
Yeah, so that is also answered in the purport. Basically, Prabhupada mentions that the material attachment for such people is so much that probably the only way for them to cut off that attachment is leave at all of a sudden. But definitely, this is not the way that Prabhupada is advising for devotees. What is the way he is advising for devotees?
Narottama.
Yeah, basically he's telling that till the time you are at home, you make sure that you do the, like we do the path of hearing and chanting about name, form, qualities, pastime. And even when we are retired, Prabhupada says take the association of devotees and render service. He's not advising devotees to follow that path, but in case of Dhritarashtra, because of his material contamination and attachment, Vidura asked him to leave immediately without proper intimation.
Sure.
Okay.
So that he won't get confused. Is that the idea? Because given a chance.
Correct. Basically, he won't get confused, and secondly, the contamination was such probably, and this we can only speculate that Vidura could have been concerned that Yudhishthir Maharaj might want to stop Dhritarashtra, that don't leave, you practice here, and maybe we will serve you better. He knew that only way for him to salvage his life was leave immediately. Only then the contamination will be purified.
Sure.
So, okay.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One question. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Can you explain the significance of going north, Prabhuji? What is that significance?
That is also explained, Hangona. It will come in the subsequent one. I have highlighted this. Himalaya.
Okay,
What does
then
it
we will
mean?
wait. We'll wait for that, Prabhuji. We'll wait for
Sure,
that. No worries.
Sure.
Let's continue.
Okay. Maybe to answer it briefly, going to the north means going towards Himalayas. And Himalayas significance is mentioned in the scriptures, which we will discuss. Why it is a very favorable place to practice spirituality. Okay. So let me go back to the slides one moment. Yes. So one of the thing which we can also understand as an underlying factor in Vidura's instruction to Dhritarashtra is the urgency of taking up spiritual life immediately without further delay. As we often hear that Prahlad Maharaj mentions that that person is old, which is very close to die. But in this world, we don't know whether how close we are. Death can come any moment. That means all of us, it is a emergency. But why it was all the more emergency for Dhritarashtra? Because for a normal person, even though death can come any point in time, for a person who has approached old age, it is certain. It is not that there is a chance. It is supposed to happen very quickly. So urgency in taking up Krishna consciousness is very important. Vipin Vilas Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. One more point regarding the urgency. Already, Vidura was knowing that Krishna has already lived this material world. He has wind up already his pastimes. But that truth also he has not revealed to the Pandavas. So it was really very much urgency. So that before Pandavas knows about the Krishna's disappearance, better he want to leave this Dhritarashtra. He has to go back before. So that is one more point also. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And Prabhupada also mentions in the purport that the age of degradation, Kali Yuga, was approaching, and Vidura did not want the effect of his instructions to Dhritarashtra fade away. That somehow he is coming to his senses, and if that effect fades away, he would have probably left his body staying in that wretched situation only. So he wanted him to leave immediately. And even Srila Prabhupada's own spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, used to often emphasize this point that Krishna consciousness is an emergency. It cannot wait for anything else. So let us quickly try to read through this. Hang on. I hope it is not too long. If it is, then we discuss quickly. We request devotees who are volunteering for reading, keep your hands on. So we request those devotees then one by one. Reena Mataji, Hare Krishna. Okay, it is a bit long, but you start, Mataji. I will ask you to pause in between. Abhay's friend.
Prabhuji, from where I have to read?
You hang on. Yeah, you can read from here. So to give some context to Prabhuji's Mataji's, this is Srila Prabhupada's first meeting with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and one of Srila Prabhupada's friend, Narendra Mulik, he took Abhay Babu to meet Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And apparently, externally speaking, Abhay Babu was reluctant to visit Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati because he said, I have seen many sadhus visiting our home when I was young boy because my father used to invite them. But many of them, they were like not up to that standard to inspire. But Narendra Mulik said, no, this sadhu is very special and you please come with me once. And then what happens? You start with while the two young men.
While the two young men were still rising and preparing to sit, before any preliminary formalities of conversation had begun, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta immediately said to them, "You are educated young men. Why don't you preach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message throughout the whole world?" Abhay could hardly believe what he had just heard. They had not even exchanged views.
Yeah,
They had not even exchanged views, yet this sadhu was telling them what they should do. Sitting face to face with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Abhay was gathering his wits and trying to gain a comprehensible impression. But this person had already told them to become preachers and go all over the world. Abhay was immediately impressed, but he was not going to drop his intelligent skepticism. After all, there were assumptions in what the sadhu had said. Abhay had already announced himself by his dress to be a follower of Gandhi, and he felt the impulse to raise an argument. Yet, as he continued to listen to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta speak, he also began to feel won over by the sadhu's strength of conviction. He could sense that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta did not care for anything but Lord Chaitanya, and that this was what made him great. This was why followers had gathered around him and why Abhay himself felt drawn, inspired, and humbled and wanted to hear more. But he felt obliged to make an argument to test the truth. Drawn irresistibly into discussion, Abhay spoke up in answer to the words of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had so tersely spoken in the first seconds of their meeting. Who will hear your Chaitanya's message? Abhay queried. We are a dependent country. First, India must become independent. How can we spread Indian culture if we are under British rule? Abhay had not asked hotly, just to be provocative, yet his question was clearly a challenge. If he were to take this sadhu's remark to them as a serious one, and there was nothing in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's demeanor to indicate that he had not been serious, Abhay felt compelled to question how he could propose such a thing while India was still dependent. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta replied in a quiet, deep voice that Krishna consciousness did not have to wait for a change in Indian politics, nor was it dependent on who ruled. Krishna consciousness was so important, so exclusive, important that it could not wait. Abhay was struck.
Thank you, Mataji. So here we later on see in many references in Leelamrut, Srila Prabhupada mentions that he was happy to be defeated by his spiritual master. That Srila Prabhupada put a challenging question to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that you are asking us to preach the cult of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout the world, but who is going to listen when India itself does not have a independent existence? It is still under British rule. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur contested that thought process, saying that Krishna consciousness cannot wait for who is ruling which country. It is an emergency and it needs to be taken up without any delay. And later on, it is mentioned how Abhay Babu was struck by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's conviction, and he took it. Basically, he changed his paradigm that he was a Gandhian earlier, uh, participating in a movement for independent India, but then Srila Prabhupada became a devotee preacher, basically. preparing himself for this mission that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had assigned to him. Any questions, queries, Prabhuji, Mataji? Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, with this particular instance, can you put the link in the chat?
Sure. Okay. To answer this particular incident took place at the Gaudiya Mutt at Ulta Danga Junction, and this place is still there in Calcutta. So let me put it on the chat. It will be there on the slide also. Okay, so we proceed. Yeah, so maybe we'll have a quick recap of what we discussed with this particular text 28. It concludes the portion where Vidura gave a heavy chastisement to Dhritarashtra. Vidura's instructions to Dhritarashtra conclude at this particular text. Okay, difference between Dhira, Sannyasi, Paramahamsa, Narottama we discussed. I deliberately put ampersand just to confuse, but Paramahamsa and Narottama are one and the same. Don't get confused. These three we already saw. Does anyone have any questions, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, on this before we proceed? Hare Krishna. Is it too confusing? Everyone very quiet. Ajit Prabhu, is it clear? Anand?
Clear,
Yes,
Prabhu.
clear, Prabhuji.
Okay, okay, fine. Okay, and what is the process of stabilizing one's renunciation? Who can answer this? Try. Don't worry, even if it's not exactly the words you are speaking from the purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. One should have the association of the.
It's the association of the devotees, Prabhu.
Yes, association of devotees and hearing about Lord's name from qualities, pastimes, that will stabilize one's renunciation. One will be able to advance to the higher stages. But for a materially afflicted person, immediate workaround given by Vidura was to quit. That is not a generic advice. That is for Dhritarashtra. For devotees, Prabhupada gives the advice. So now we proceed. Hang on, which is, what context is this? Vivek Sharma, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Please unmute yourself, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Just one
Yes.
question from myself is how to practically how to ensure oneself that we are in constant presence and protection of the Supreme of Krishna.
Very
Keep
nice
reminding
question. How
you.
do we ensure that we are in constant protection of Lord Krishna? Lord Krishna offers his protection, instructions, guidance through the medium of his devotees, Prabhuji. So our authority for the particular Sangha, for the congregation, His Holiness Jai Pataka Swami Maharaj, His Grace Namanishta Prabhuji, and his representatives, as long as we are constantly following their instructions, following whatever they have mentioned in terms of our day-to-day Krishna consciousness, we can be safe, assured, Prabhuji. Okay, so let us read through Hare Krishna. There are two devotees who have raised their hand. Shama Gopika Mataji wanted to recite, or?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Actually, I have a question regarding Dhritarashtra. Like when he went to North on the advice of Vidura, like what was he meditating upon? Because he is not a devotee of the Lord, right? So
that is also mentioned, how he passed away, how
okay.
Gandhar, that is also mentioned.
Okay,
So
sure.
I don't want to steal the thunder. Bhagavatam
Okay.
already is answering. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let us read through. Mataji, you want to read through directly translation?
Okay, Prabhu. Thus Maharaj Dhritarashtra, the scion of the family of Ajamedha, firmly convinced by introspective knowledge, pragya, broke at once the strong network of familial affection by his resolute determination. Thus, he immediately left home to set out on the path of liberation as directed by his younger brother Vidura.
Yes, thank you, Madam. So just to save time, we won't read through the entire purport, but you can read through at your leisure. Prabhupada basically explains his own gratitude to the momentary association of his spiritual master. Maybe we read through the highlighted part, Mataji.
We are not ashamed to admit that this fact was experienced in our practical life. Were we not favored by His divine grace, Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, by our first meeting for a few minutes only, it would have been impossible for us to accept this mighty task of describing Srimad Bhagavatam in English. Without seeing him at that opportune moment, we could have become a very great business magnate, but never would we have been able to walk the path of liberation and be engaged in the factual service of the Lord under instructions of His divine grace.
Thank you, Mataji. So Srila Prabhupada is expressing his gratitude for that momentary meeting. So all of us, we should also invariably be very grateful to Narendra Mulik. What was his contribution? Of course, that is a pastime, but technically he was the person who convinced Abhay Babu to come and meet Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's instructions Srila Prabhupada took to his heart. Excuse me. Srila Prabhupada took to his heart, and then ISKCON was born. And all of us, we could get connected to this mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we also see one very important point. You take any successful devotee, you take any great soul, you will find this aspect of gratitude underlying in all of them. None of them think that, oh, I was so great that, I was due to become a Krishna conscious devotee anyhow. That is not the proper mood. Whether we take the example, I have quoted one verse by Prahlad Maharaj. Mataji, want to recite this verse? Let me make it big.
Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi. This is like
you can recite this in Brahma Samhita meter. Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi koope.
Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi koope kamabhikamam anuya prapatan prasangat kritva masat surasina bhagavan grihita soham katham nu visruje tava bhritya sevam. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with the material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant Narad Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.28.
So this is a very important quality of a devotee, gratitude for our authorities, including our Diksha Guru, our Shiksha Gurus, and Pata Pradarshika Guru. Pata Pradarshika Guru means one who showed us the path of Krishna consciousness. And imagine who is telling this, Prahlad Maharaj. What is the stature of Prahlad Maharaj as a devotee? Before even Prahlad Maharaj was born, while he was still within the womb of his mother, it was proclaimed by Narad Muni to the Devatas led by Indra that a Mahabhagavat devotee is growing within the womb of this lady, Kayadu. So don't kidnap her and try to kill the child. There is a Mahabhagavat within the womb. That means Prahlad Maharaj was already a great soul while still being within the womb. And such a great soul is expressing his gratitude that I was destined towards degraded life, that I was destined, I was afflicted by material desires, one after another, and I was falling into a blind well full of snakes. If a person like Prahlad Maharaj has this thought process about his own stature, then how much we should be really aware of our fallen condition and the favor that has been meted out to us by the guiding devotees. We should be very thankful. There is a English saying, one who is not grateful is a great fool. GREATFOOL. So we should always be very thankful. We also see this in the life of so many other devotees. Say, for example, Dhruva Maharaj. When Dhruva Maharaj, the Vaikuntha plane came to fetch Dhruva Maharaj to Vaikuntha Loka, he first of all remembered his mother. Even before Narad Muni, she was the person who guided him to go towards, to go to forest, saying that, my dear Dhruva, you are worried about the love and care of one mother. Lord Vishnu can give the love and affection of thousands of mothers. So don't worry, you won't miss me and you will be properly taken care of. So Dhruva Maharaj remembers that. Similarly, Mrugari also remembers the favor meted out to him by Narad Muni. So this is an underlying quality by all great souls who perfected their lives. Very important. So thinking, let's proceed with the verses. One devotee had raised their hand. Who was the devotee who had raised hand?
I had raised, Prabhuji.
Lalita Vinodini Mataji. Okay.
Actually, when in bhajan class, it was taught to us in a different tune. So I thought if nobody is singing, I can take up.
Okay, Mataji.
Prabhupada's this Krishna Tava Punya Habebai, he has mentioned this shloka in between. So it has come along with that bhajan Mataji had taught us.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Mataji.
You want me to read?
Okay, hang on. I'm just checking which one to start. Yeah, so here Dhritarashtra's position is mentioned, how he was really attached to all these material comforts. So for him, yeah, here the greatness is mentioned. Why Dhritarashtra's story is important? Prabhupada mentions, and yet, despite his life of failure, Prabhupada is calling Dhritarashtra's life till now as the life of failure. Despite his life of failure, he achieved the greatest of all success in self-realization by the forceful instructions of a pure devotee of the Lord, who is the typical emblem of a sadhu. So last time I think it was Murli Prabhu who had asked that what do we learn from these devotees, that they are there in Bhagavatam for a specific purpose. Either it is Dhritarashtra, or it is Ajamel, or it is Maharaj Yayati, or it is Maharaj Pururava, all these, or Maharaj Prachina Barhi, that their material attachment are now glorious because of the reformation these devotees have had later on. Hare Krishna. Mataji, you can start from here, the scriptures enjoin.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. The scriptures enjoin, therefore, that one should associate with sadhus only, rejecting all other kinds of association. And by doing so, one will have ample opportunity to hear the sadhus, who can cut to pieces the bonds of illusory affection in the material world. It is
Yes. So here again, the importance of associating with sadhus is given. And there is also a very famous verse which comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Where it is mentioned that Lalita Mataji, please continue this sadhu sangha.
Yes, Prabhuji. Sadhu sangha, sarva shastre khoya, lava matra sadhu sange, sarva siddhi hoya. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The verdict of all revealed scriptures is that by even a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can attain all success.
Yes. It's only one line, yeah.
Purport by His Divine Srila Prabhupada ki jai. According to astronomical calculations, a lover is 1/11th of a second. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So in case of Dhritarashtra, we see Vidura did not stay for too long. It is not mentioned, but probably 2-3 days max we can understand. One day he was received, took bath, had prasadam, rested. Second day he instructed, And that same night, probably, Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, along with Vidura, they left the palace. So the amount of time was not too long, but Vidura knew that Dhritarashtra's it is the last chance, and he made use of that chance. Let me see what I had planned, because next portion may take some time. All right. Prema Priya Jayashree Mataji, I saw you raised your hand. You want to read? Yeah.
Yes,
You
sir.
can read the translation, the gentle.
Hare Krishna. The Vedic civilization especially prepares
The gentle and chaste Gandhari.
translation. The gentle and chaste Gandhari was the daughter of King Subala of Kandahar or Gandhara, followed her husband, seeing that he was going to the Himalaya mountains, which are the delight of those who have accepted the staff of the renounced order, like fighters who have accepted a good lashing from the enemy.
Yes. Who had asked this question about North, Prabhuji's Mataji's? Was it Shama Gopika Mataji, you, or Murli Prabhu?
I asked.
Yeah.
I asked.
So now this question is getting answered, Prabhuji. North means Himalaya, and Prabhupada also explains why Himalaya. So hang on now, let me take you directly. Where is the Himalaya mentioned?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, just to
It's
add,
in the
in the
translation.
previous chapter of Parikshit, when they were giving examples of Parikshit, also Himalaya brought in, no Prabhu. Like if you go to Himalaya, Himalaya will take care. Like Himalaya, he was compared.
Yes, it was
in connection with that, Prabhu.
It was mentioned there that Himalaya would give all the support and necessities to sustain there. Okay, so it is not just for material sustenance to practice spirituality, but it's a very conducive place for practicing Krishna consciousness.
Okay, boss. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay. For what we are discussing, but later on we will also see a higher stage than that. So, 1 second. Prabhupada basically mentions in the purport that as a lady, Gandhari could have opted to stay put in the palace, or could have even gone back to her father's place in Kandahar, in Gandhar. But she still decided to follow her husband through all the difficulties and austerities that he was going to pursue, and participate in those austerities. 1 second. Yeah, and in the later part of the purport, Prabhupada also mentions that a sannyasi, he is supposed to be a civil, a dead man as far as civilian society is concerned, because he cuts through all the relationships, including one's spouse. But in case of Dhritarashtra, he was still on the level of, like basically he was taking up the level of Dhira, and he did not deny Gandhari from joining him. So he allowed her to join him.
What about Kunti Devi, Prabhuji? She didn't join?
She joined the Pandavas. She joined her sons, which will come later in the next chapter. Okay.
Yes.
And in the purport, Prabhupada mentions two types of sannyasis. One are the Mayavadi sannyasis who carry Ekadanda, and the Vaishnava sannyasis, like we don't suggest Matajis to do, but Prabhujis, if you get a chance, you can touch the sannyasi danda of any of ISKCON sannyasis. You will find by the touch, we can see there are 3 sticks which are tied together. So Prabhupada explains that Vaishnava sannyasis, they take 3 dandi sannyas, and the 3 danda indicates complete surrender to Lord Krishna by one's body, mind, and one words, manasa, deha, and vacha also. But Ekadandi sannyasis, they typically Mayavadi sannyasis, Shankara Sampradaya sannyasis, they accept Ekadandi sannyas. And we see in the life of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, surprisingly, which sannyas Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had accepted? He had accepted Ekadandi sannyas in the Bharati Sampradaya, just because that Sampradaya was prominent, and Mahaprabhu felt it would be easier for people to accept him and respect him and surrender unto him. if he accepts this sannyas. And later on we see Nityananda Prabhu breaking that Ekdandi Danda of Mahaprabhu into 3 different parts and throwing it into the river. So that is also a pastime. You can read it. I have mentioned it in the, hang on, this is the pastime. You can read it at your leisure, Prabhuji's Mataji. Ananda Vilas Prabhu has also mentioned, Mahaprabhu, many devotees say that is not the Himalaya what we see, it is, yeah. So that Himalaya, say for example, even that description is there, Ananda Vilas Prabhuji. Say for example, in the case of Madhvacharya, it is explained that when Madhvacharya went to get the audience of Srila Vyasadeva, his disciples were following and they could only go up to a certain distance beyond Badrinath, after which they fainted and Madhvacharya went beyond that. So that is true. Even Himalaya, there are certain portions which are not accessible to any Tom, Dick and Harry, like where Srila Vyasadeva stays, where there is also this, the abode of Lord Shiva, Kailash, that is also there, but we can't see it using our material eyes. So some portions of Himalaya are only accessible to qualified devotees, qualified personalities, not everyone. Okay, let me go back to the slides, 1 second.
Prabhu, just one doubt on this Ekadanta Sannyasi. You had been to ISKCON Mangalore, right, Prabhu? Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's appropriate to ask, but I saw His Holy Grace Guru Maharaj who had come. You were also there, but he was actually having one.
That looks like a one danda, but if you touch it, you will realize there are 3 sticks inside that are tied.
Oh, okay.
Inside.
That cover is just a single pouch. Inside that there are 3. Okay.
Correct. So if Prabhuji's, it is Mataji's, we don't advise, but if you get a chance service, you can hold it and you will come to know that there are 3 sticks inside.
Tied together. Sure.
Okay.
And why is it covered, Prabhu?
That is because it is explained as danda of a sannyasi is such a holy thing that all the devatas reside in the sannyas. So it has to be handled very, very carefully.
Oh, okay. And
To
all of
maintain,
them carry, Prabhu?
huh?
All sannyasis carry the danda?
Yes, all the sannyasis, but say for example, some sannyasis visiting, you may not see the danda. That means it is being taken care by the personal servant and probably it is in their room and all. But some sannyasis they carry even when they are visiting the temple also.
Traveling. Got it, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So for Narottama, what is mentioned? Yeah, so this I have shared the path and you can also see at your leisure. I have mentioned in the slide. So I think we conclude for today, otherwise it will be too much rush covering the next section. I ideally wanted to cover till 35, 37 so that we directly go to the last section. This chapter is quite big next time. Any questions, comments, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, or any points anybody wants to share on what we discussed? Is it all interesting? All of you are finding it important? What all lessons we can learn?
Yes, Prabhuji, very much.
Yeah.
Except one, Prabhu, which I mean, in the sense which I didn't understand, which I had messaged you also about ISKCON practicing about that secret. You explained today, but I was not able to connect. What is the truth which ISKCON is actually, I could not really get the meaning of it.
But let me come back to that.
Finally, you can bring, but you brought it up in one statement, but I could not pick it in that thing. You can explain
I'll give you some of the examples, then it will be easier to understand. Say, for example, scriptures explain for a attachment, say for example, and take it in the right. Maybe you want to stop recording first, Mataji?
Sure, 1 second, Prabhu. Then, Prabhu, you are the host. Only you can stop.
Okay, hang on.
Or you want to explain at the end after the discussion is fine, Prabhu.
No, we are almost at the end. Oops.